When Grown in Britain started 10 years ago, we had a real task on our hand and we weren't too sure where the path was going to take us. What we knew we needed to do was provide something that the whole sector and society could coalesce around. And we're really proud that we've managed to do that. The brand is now the brand for homegrown timber. The sector is behind the certification. And we've brought, with others, a huge amount of woods into management.
Grown in Britain is important because it's addressing the problems that have faced forestry and woodland management in this country for the last, 50 or 60 years, and it's beginning to make a real difference in terms of raising people's awareness of what the benefits are of specifying and using British timber.
What we are trying to do with Grown in Britain is to completely change the material supply into our part of the industry, which is construction. So previously, 95% of timber would have been imported from Europe or maybe Asia or the US, and we've completely stopped all timber imports, because what we've found with Grown in Britain's help is that all of the timber that we need in our sector is readily available in the UK, grown in the UK from the local timber mills. And we're able to make use of that and provide our clients with a product that we think is of a higher standard than it was when we were using the imported timbers.
Trees are such an emotional subject, and we need to be able to communicate to people the importance of well-managed woodlands and the positive impact that a well-managed woodland has on biodiversity, and that they're one and the same.
Grown in Britain is important to everybody. We all live in houses that have had a carbon cost attached to them. We need to move to a future that's better than that, perhaps more timber construction. And that goes throughout society in terms of where we live and how we live, the products we buy. Grown in Britain is important because actually they're real ambassadors for nature and biodiversity and improving woodlands, community access, forest school education. Such a broad societal value from Grown in Britain. I think they make a huge impact across the nation.
Woodlands are incredibly important because they are the lungs of society in one respect. They are massive reservoirs of biodiversity, and they provide a huge amount of amenity for individuals who go walking in them, people who exercise in them, children who learn in them.
The certification process that we deliver is absolutely vital. It underpins our passion, it underpins the need for change. And it gives people assurance that the forest products have come from UK woodlands, that they have been grown sustainably and legally in this country. Possibly one of the biggest achievements that Grown in Britain's had in its 10-year life is raising awareness that it is important to think about where timber comes from, the furniture you sit on, or the timber in your houses, the charcoal or the wood fuel you might use as energy. Think about where it came from. I think we've done really well at raising the consciousness in society, and particularly enabling the sector to respond to that pull from people. And our robust standards and auditing is there to back that up.
Grown in Britain's also involved in us in a summer school where we deliberately seek to engage young people, perhaps those in the sector which is very male dominated. We've focused some of our summer schools on women and non-binary students, and they've been incredibly powerful. We've got students now who've gone into industry, found jobs, and are starting to create a new cohort of people who will inspire others to come into the industry. They'll be focused around homegrown timber, they'll be focused around sustainability, and Grown in Britain's been a critical partner for us in making that happen.
In the last 10 years, Grown in Britain has made incredible headway in being able to communicate to landowners, woodland owners, industry, the importance of sustainable woodland, well-managed woodlands, and that transparency of supply chain, and being able to trace wood from the space it's growing right through to final product. Being able to communicate that has been an incredible piece of work that Grown in Britain have done amazing things for.
One of the successes to date has been the over 300,000 hectares of woodland that we now have certified as grown in Britain, which means that there's more woodlands being properly managed in the UK. That source of material that then feeds into the supply chain, customers can have confidence that they're buying a sustainable, environmentally sound option.
I think the next 10 years can be really exciting for Grown in Britain as we look at how we deal with carbon, localised supply, reducing the carbon footprint for our materials is a really important time to consider the benefits of timber within our lives.
I'm really excited by what Grown in Britain can do to really strengthen the British homegrown timber market, because actually so much will flow from that. So we'll have more income generated for landowners, which might in turn then encourage better management of woodlands. It will transform society's perspectives around growing timber locally and its sustainability.
I think consumers will appreciate having homegrown timber in their products. The certification of GIB is important to be able to demonstrate with confidence that the timber really is coming from homegrown domestic woodlands.
I think it's fair to say that when we started, it was a struggle to persuade people that there was an important thing to do here. Now those doors are open, the minds are open, the pressure's back on us to deliver. Wood products are not only important because they embody carbon, they store carbon, and they're a low carbon material, but actually as trees grow, they absorb carbon from the atmosphere and they give out oxygen. It's just brilliant. That's why we do need to plant more trees. Whilst we support the expansion and the planting of trees, we like to think of it as establishing woodland. It's really important not just to plant a tree or to donate to plant a tree, but to make sure that the trees and the woodlands develop into productive places and are not just neglected.
There's a really critical link between timber production and biodiversity. All the woods in Britain have been influenced by people for millennia. And actually, the biodiversity we have now that we value is actually reliant on some form of intervention from people in the way they manage their land. So it might be a surprise to people that actually the richest sites for biodiversity tend to be those that have a long history in management. For example, coppice management. What we need to do is to make sure we don't neglect our woodlands, and the woodlands that we create which are new need to be designed in a way that they support biodiversity. So the interrelationship between people and nature is really important.
Grown in Britain has relevance in Britain today to all of us actually. Whether you're buying a new garden bench or timber decking or cladding for your house, to look for that Grown in Britain stamp I think is really important. And in fact I think there's a lot of innovation around Grown in Britain and the Grown in Britain timber producers.
I have been immersed in an amazing world. The last 2 or 3 years, there are a lot of people having a lot of positive conversations. There's a huge passion for timber, for British timber in particular, and utilising that material. And I'm seeing more young people discussing it and being aware of their impact as well.
What excites me about the future is that there's a growing consciousness of where things come from in general, and that people are really starting to notice and talk about and look for where their wood comes from.
Woodlands are fundamental in terms of being reservoirs of biodiversity and carbon. They're all absorbing carbon. We're talking about all sorts of ways of capturing carbon with technology, but trees are doing it every day. And we've got an awful lot of trees that are just growing there quietly and making a fantastic contribution.
For someone trying to get involved in Grown in Britain and promote, I would encourage everyone to take a walk in their local woodland. And when doing that, to listen, look at the detail and the beauty around them. And the better the woodland is managed and the greater the biodiversity, the more interesting that walk will be. And you'll find yourself going back to the woods for that walk and find it restorative and fulfilling and a big enhancement of your own well-being.
We should all start asking ourselves where our wood products are coming from, whether it's firewood going into your stove or material going into perhaps an extension or a building project, or material used in the furniture that's in your own home. That's the one thing people can do now, ask where the wood is coming from.
For the general public to get more involved with Grown in Britain would be such a wonderful thing to happen. We need people to look for the logo. We need people to ask when they're buying timber products, where has this product come from? How is it sustainable? How far has it travelled before it reaches me?
When you consider what Grown in Britain have achieved in 10 years, I can still hardly believe it's only been 10 years, it's enormous. It's impacted on a lot of people and a lot of processes within the industry. If you consider what that looks like, imagine what can be done in the next 10 years. So go for it, Team GIB.